When you see the most knowledgeable investors in the world buying it at the level they are, the central banks, that's all you should need to see. Their actions certainly tell you that gold and silver are very, very, very important to where we are going ultimately. So while this is a day to rejoice, don't get, I think, thrown off the bull for the wrong reason.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for November 4th through November 11th, 2024, while supplies last. This week we feature the 2024 1-ounce gold UK Lion and Eagle coin, a highly limited release, available at just $99 over spot. We also have backdated silver 1-ounce Britannia at just $2.99 over spot per ounce. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're delighted to have this returning guest. Andy Schectman is the CEO of Miles Franklin Precious Metals. He's joining us for a weekly market update. Today is Wednesday, November 6, 2024. Andy, thanks for coming back on Liberty and Finance.
Thanks for having me, buddy. I appreciate you pivoting. I know we like to do the live streams, but I had some previous engagements this evening that I had to attend to, and so thanks for helping me out with this today. But it's good to be back as always.
Absolutely. And I was frankly glad this morning that the lights were still on. We hadn't had a nationwide grid down or anything yet. So hopefully people will just carry on and will be civil, will be constructive, will go forward as a country and pull together. One of the things that, there's a couple aspects of that I wanted to talk about with you on this day after the election day. One is the bullion market specifically. And that is whether we anticipate a Trump slump as what happened to the firearms industry when he got elected the first time, as opposed to Obama, who quoted that he was the best friend that the firearms industry ever had, et cetera, that sort of thing, kind of a opposite than you'd expect. And secondly, whether it makes, how much difference it's going to actually make from a financial survival standpoint for people on who gets elected, given the mathematics of the debt trap that we find ourselves in as a country, whether the Fed and the powers that be, no matter who's in the Oval Office, have got us such in a corner that people should take advantage of this opportunity to make preparations accordingly. And perhaps this is exactly that. So if we could first look at the bullion market, you have your finger on the pulse of supply, demand, backlogs, availability, premiums, et cetera, mint behavior at the end of the year, et cetera, especially when there may be anticipated unrest or things like that happen. When we woke up this morning to sharply reduced gold and silver prices that had broken below where they'd been for many weeks. And yet they're starting to recover. And the phone, from my standpoint as a broker, has been ringing off the hook this morning. So I'd like to get your viewpoint on that, what you anticipate right now in the retail and going forward in the retail bullion market, given the presidential election results and the reduction of uncertainty.
Have we seen, did they sweep the House, or is that not out yet?
Right now, the indication is that the Republicans are expected to carry both the House and the Senate and the number of governors and the White House.
Yeah, to me, that's a big one, because if he didn't sweep the House and had this same old partisan deadlock that we've seen for the last several years, where the Republicans held the House and the Democrats the Senate, nothing substantive ever got done. You never saw anything other than typically people voting along party lines. I would say that if that were the case, it would be not as good for gold as it is with both sides of the House and the Senate belonging to the Republicans, so that they will be able to pass legislation. And look, I think from a standpoint of, this is me talking here right now, okay? For me, the reason I wanted Trump to win is that, as someone who voted with his feet and left Minnesota, I've had enough of the wokeness and the BLM and the LGBTQ to last me a lifetime. I wanted to get back to the sanity where people were admitted into colleges and to careers based upon their merit, not upon their race or their color or their gender or their lifestyle. I wanted to find some form of credibility that would be regained in things like the FBI and the DOJ. And I think maybe yesterday we maybe took a step towards renewed faith in our electoral system, things that I've talked about on your show forever that had bothered me. And this election to me, which really bothered me, was not just Trump versus Kamala. And then again, it was Trump versus Kamala, the Obamas, the deep state, the media, every major corporation, every celebrity, every musician, every university, all the social media platforms, except yours and mine and a few others, and even the rhinos, the Republicans that pretended to be Republicans, even the Avengers, for goodness sake. It was just too much in the way of...
You didn't mention the World Economic Forum and the UN.
Yeah, and that's just too much. And I like the idea of going back to some form of sanity, and getting rid of this baseless, inflammatory rhetoric, and the moral high ground and all of this nonsense. That to me is why I wanted Trump in office. But look, the truth of the matter is he wants low interest rates. He wants a weaker dollar. He wants lower taxes. All of this is inflationary in the respect that they will spend. We don't have a surplus. Well, we have deficits that will continue to grow. We have inflation that will continue to accelerate, lowering interest rates. With all of the money in the system, with stocks and real estate at all-time highs, we have not signaled victory over inflation. They're waving the white flag against inflation. So inflation is here to stay. What you saw today was a knee-jerk reaction. The markets are always very reactionary, and it's laughable how much it is. But you look at the massive short positions that the commercial banks have in London and in New York. Maybe they looked at this as an opportunity to smack it and cover some of these positions. My guess is within a day or two, it'll be right back where it was. The resiliency and the strength of the metals markets has been extraordinary, and the worldwide accumulation won't stop today. In fact, it will continue to grow. And so I think that, it's better for this country. Putting precious metals and precious metals prices aside, I care less for those, and I say that out of respect for everyone that's ever worked with us and for my own holdings, than I do a world where my kids and yours, done again, your grandkids, I don't have any yet, but you do, grow up in a world where maybe we can talk about things that are more optimistic. And this is a day to celebrate. This is a day to rejoice, as far as I'm concerned. You're bringing, he's bringing all sorts of people into the fray. Former Democrats like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. and bringing in Elon Musk, bringing like the Benjamin Franklin of our time, bringing in all these minds and creating unity, something that the Democratic Party really didn't do. In fact, anything but. They've created divisiveness and lack of unity. To me, that's what it's been. And quite frankly, then again, it's been a real drag being a pessimist the way that I have for the last 4 years. Maybe this will bring optimism and opportunity to some degree on many levels. But what it won't do, in my opinion, is fix our fiscal and monetary problems just yet. Now, look, if Elon Musk comes in and does what he did to Twitter and, immediately, cuts a huge portion of the government. Think about this for a minute. In September, I believe, they added over 780,000 government jobs to skew the numbers, as far as I'm concerned. And even in this last employment report, where it was putrid, they only added 12,000 jobs. But what they really did, and they don't tell you, is that they shed 28,000 jobs from the private sector and added over 40,000 jobs again, government jobs. And, we're borrowing money to pay for these jobs, and the government just keeps expanding and expanding and expanding. A government that has no profit motive, that doesn't employ, all forms of fiscal sanity and responsibility go out the window when the government is the one creating all of the jobs. These are the kind of things that, if we see those kind of things, then there is really hope and optimism that we can right this ship and start paying down our debt and start, producing more than we consume, and not be, in a constant position of adding, a $1 or $2 or $3 trillion to the debt every single year in the form of deficit spending. So, ultimately, this is a day to rejoice and to be happy for and to be thankful for, and it is the American spirit. And maybe we've regained a little bit of, at least from a portion of the world anyway. Maybe half the country doesn't think that. I don't know, but it gives me pause for a moment that maybe the credibility of the elections is starting to at least gain a little bit more confidence. And but I don't see it materially changing our problems with the dollar, with our debt, with interest rates. These are things. Look, Trump understands the whole concept of bankruptcy, a default, a reset. Could that happen? Yeah, I think it probably could. I think you could see something that is some form of a reset of the system. I don't know what triggers it. I don't know what it looks like, but you have to ask yourself a question: how do we ever pay off this massive, massive debt with the continued fiscal irresponsibility that we have, adding, a few $1 trillion to the debt each year, and the servicing of the debt now outpacing just about everything at close to $1 trillion a year, or at $1 trillion a year? These are numbers that are so big they're almost impossible to ever address. And even if we balance the budget today, who pays for Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security and government military pensions, which they tell us by their own admission are 5 to 6 times higher than the debt that's on the books? So it's not an easy task he has, but it starts. Sorry, banged my mic there with my hand. It starts with getting some form of our culture back. And if anyone understands it, it's you. You're a very principle-oriented person, and I see the way you've raised an amazing family, and they're all very hardworking, regimented, educated people who embrace the values that this country, I think, was founded on: religion and family and hard work and ethics. And a lot of these things have gone by the wayside. And I think it's not going to be easy. It's going to be bumpy. But I think that's where we start. And I thank God that we have at least that to look forward to. As far as the fiscal problems, look, he brings in the right people, and you see Elon Musk clean house and really reduce the size of government, get rid of all of the restrictions that businesses have, and lower taxes to incentivize more business activity, bring our manufacturing home. It won't be easy. It won't be fast. We'd have to rebuild these manufacturing centers, teach people how to do it. So it's not something that's going to happen tomorrow. But my hope is that he makes good on a lot of the promises, and that he can unite the country through his actions, and that we see this trend continue for years to come, not just a 4-year flash in the pan deal. And I am optimistic right now, but it doesn't change at all, at least for now, the reason to continue to own precious metals. In fact, the fuse that was lit to start this precious metals market, largely the debt and the massive accumulation of debt and the irresponsible spending, that hasn't changed. And sadly, I don't think it's going to change under Trump, at least not initially. In fact, they're talking about him increasing by his numbers, 7-8 trillion to the debt by what he wants to do. Who knows? I'm just simply saying that, socially, morally, Culturally, I thank God he won. But in terms of what it means for people who own gold, I don't think it's changed anything. In fact, I think that is still a trend that is in motion, that I don't see anything that's going to change that at this point.
One of the things that I noticed was prior to the election, there was enough anticipation of concern of loss of our constitutional republic to a non-constitutional process and narrative and everything that we've talked about before, that there was a collective anxiety on the part of a lot of my clients who thought some of them were going to relocate outside the country. Some were going to, basically take everything out of the system and hold it outside, that sort of thing, anticipating that they needed to take a very defensive posture. When the results come out now that it looks like we're going to have a Republican administration, et cetera, some of those anxieties about loss of property rights, et cetera, might be mitigated. But there's still, as you mentioned, this mathematical paradox we find ourselves in, what Alistair MacLeod refers to as the debt trap, that he says is basically inescapable. And you're right that some of the remedies that could address that are going to take time, and you have to start putting those pieces in place. And it's a very uphill or upstream swim against this extremely strong current that's been built over generations. So it's going to be very difficult to rein in that budget when we already have, what is it, $1.5 trillion a year or almost $2 trillion a year just servicing the debt, et cetera. There's a quote that made me think of this when you talked about the size of government and what government can do. If the promise going forward is smaller government, we'll see, because that hasn't always played out that way, regardless of which party was in power. But here's a quote from Margaret Thatcher. This is from a speech that she gave in the early 1980s. "One of the great debates of our time is about how much of your money should be spent by the state and how much you should keep to spend on your family. Let us never forget this fundamental truth. The state has no source of money other than money which people earn themselves. If the state wishes to spend more, it can do so only by borrowing your savings or by taxing you more. It is no good thinking that someone else will pay. That someone else is you. There is no such thing as public money. There is only taxpayers' money." Which is ironic, because I think that view is accurate that she describes, and yet it doesn't have to be that way. There could totally be a nest egg, a trust fund at the national level, which could be earning a return that could then support government function and that sort of thing. We've become so brainwashed into thinking that the governments can't have an actual nest egg, and can't actually that a country has to be not only broke but impoverished, in debt, and always having to service its debt. So I think that's some limited thinking there, but certainly they don't create wealth. That's true.
No, they don't create any wealth at all. That's right, and they take it through taxation, obviously, and that's the way that they get their money, and then things like tariffs and fees and whatnot. But the majority of all of the tax revenue, in fact, the Congressional Budget Office said that by 2030, if I'm not mistaken, that 100% of that revenue goes just to pay the interest on the debt and mandatory entitlement payments like Social Security and Medicare. And if that be the case, when you realize things like military spending are discretionary, who wants to fund an aging superpower who has been known for going around the world in a coercive manner, using its military apparatus as the arm of the machine? Who's going to borrow us money to fund these kinds of things? And that's kind of the problem, is that the government is broke, it's insolvent, we're spending more than we're taking in, to the point where we're getting close to the point where tax revenues all of it will be used just to pay these things. So where does the government get more money, unless, I guess, it raises taxes, which it could do, but that ends up leading to kind of a self-fulfilling event where, it slows everything down, and it disincentivizes business and growth. And maybe that's why Deutsche Bank is saying by 2029 they see $4,000 an ounce gold. I think that's very conservative. It'll probably happen before that. And this is with Trump in office. Trump with tariffs are higher than Trump without tariffs. And of course, Trump with a unified House and Senate make it that much easier for them to do what all governments, including Trump, have done, and that is to spend and to go deeper into debt, borrow more money and spend. And so, it's through taxation and borrowing, really, where they're able to fund the efforts of the government that have really gotten out of control. So that's why I don't think we'll see a substantive change in the gold bull market. I think, in fact, it's just beginning. And there are a lot of shifts going on around the world. And I think Trump has a lot of things that he's going to try to remedy and to fix. To me, as crazy as this sounds, our financial indiscretions, our fiscal irresponsibility, and our brain-dead monetary policy are not as important as getting our house in order. And I think you got to start with one thing at a time. It's interesting to think what it will look like if you start to see mass deportations and you start to see, you wonder, is he going to go after the people that went after him? What does it look like? Is there going to be more divisiveness? Is it going to be unity? What happens when you have half of the country screaming about, deporting these people and about, investigating people like Paul Pelosi? How did he get to be such a damn good investor? Very uncanny, these kinds of things. Is it quid pro quo or is it not? I don't know. Part of me really feels like I hope it is. These people have done things that are very anti-democratic. Watching Nancy Pelosi tear up the State of the Union address was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my career. These people act as though they're holier than thou, but I will tell you that they're no better than any of the other Republican candidates, Trump included. They all have their secrets. They all have their skeletons in their closet. But, one of the things that I do take a little bit of hope in is that you are seeing this unity where you got Tulsi and you have some and RFK who are Democrats who are now moving a Kennedy, for goodness sake, moving here with Trump, and you put the right people in the mix. It's the right start. But what we need to do is get back to the fundamentals. Then we can worry about our spending problems. And I think, that's a long way down the road. It really is, as far as I'm concerned. But I guess we'll have to see. I wouldn't for a moment look into today's action as anything other than the commercial banks who are wickedly short on COMEX and the LBMA using this opportunity, and a good one, to knock the hell out of the price of gold and silver under the guise of, renewed optimism to cover some of their shorts. And if things hold true to form, that will just be a buying opportunity for India, China, and Russia and the other countries who are continuing to accumulate commodities in lieu of debt instruments like our U.S. Treasury.
Well, I'd like to put our viewers and subscribers in the category of individuals who are trying to take care of business from a prudent standpoint, and as are, I think, Russia, China, and India, and all these BRICS nations. So in the past, there have been opportunities that have presented themselves where, again, for whatever reasons, and these macro trends and these countercurrents that are going on politically and in the media and narratives and everything, that there's moments of opportunity. And if this is one where a temporary price knockdown because of the imagined relief and resolution of some uncertainty and that sort of thing, sometimes you get a pullback in safe haven assets like gold or silver in a time like that. But if that means, if Alistair is correct and so on, that we're still in a mathematical debt trap bind and that sort of thing, I think that's what Rick Rule, I just interviewed Rick Rule yesterday, it's going to be going live probably tomorrow, will carry out is that we're still subject to the same value destruction trend that is in place, and people still need to seek protection from that. This may be an opportunity to do that at a reduced cost.
Yeah, he says things much more eloquently than I do. That's kind of what I'm getting at in a roundabout way. The debt, the massive amount of debt, the fiscal irresponsibility, the spending, none of that's changing. In fact, it's getting worse. But what Trump offers is hope to regain a piece of our culture that seems to have been whitewashed away over the last 4 years. And one other thing, and then I know you want to talk about the special, and I'll mention that, but I mean, I could think of no better place to start than exposing and completely whitewashing the legacy media, like 60 Minutes, like these. I mean, it's almost election interference what they did. These media stations who do nothing but foment divisiveness, tell half truths, hide the reality, make people look bad. And sway the influence. Like I said, there are a lot of very well-read people that I come in contact with in my daily life that have zero idea what's going on, and I would argue they read and watch the wrong stuff. These are the kind of things that I would like to see exposed, and it's not vindictive as much as it is a feeling of betrayal over the last several years at what has happened with the legacy media, with the CNNs and the CBS and the ABC and all of these stations that we all, and news outlets that we all grew up thinking had our best interest at heart. You have to question if that's really the case. But I think that there's a lot to be optimistic about. But in terms of what Alistair was saying, we are massively indebted. The credit in the system is drying up. The BTFP program expires tomorrow, or today, the 6th, and you have the reverse repo market almost down to nothing. These were the pools of liquidity that helped keep things going over the last year or two that very quickly have drained down to very low levels. This is a debt problem. This is a credit problem, and could very quickly spiral, especially with all of these mortgages that are coming due, these new leases and mortgages that are coming due this year and next in a higher interest rate environment. The Fed tried to lower interest rates by 50 basis points 6 weeks ago, and the 10 and the 30 are up over 60 basis points over that same period of time. That's the market's way and the bond market's way of saying, no, that's not how it works. You can't always just go to inflation and lower interest rates when you have this debt obligation. We're not going to continue to finance it at these rates. Well, that's a problem. So, we're not out of the woods even we're 4 miles deep in the woods in terms of financially, but optimism regarding everything else, absolutely.
Yeah, and even the fundamental characters that you have to have, character traits you have to have as a culture to uphold a representative constitutional republic are things like transparency and honesty in media. You have to have things like critical thinking and the ability to reason and have vital public discourse rather than censorship, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that would be a good place for us to start, is if we can start talking freely about what we observe. Using the common sense of the ordinary people would get us a lot farther than just marching in lockstep to narratives that are being spun out there in simultaneous.
Well, kind of what you said. I read a really interesting quote. I forgot who it is, but I wrote it down on a walk. I tried to talk into my phone. He's a tech guy, a Silicon Valley tech guy. And what he said is great. He said, politicians come and go, but they don't change the rules. Censorship changes the rules. Lawfare changes the rules. Mass immigration changes the rules. I guess you could say the media changes the rules. So the rules have been changed. And that's kind of what I think deep down bothers all of us who grew up, at least in the Midwest, like we did, under, family-based, religious-based fundamentals where, you respected your family, you respected God, you respected the nuclear family, you respected savings and hard work and all of the things that I think made this country great. It seems like a lot of those things, the rules have been changed over the last several years. I think that's really what I think why there are people, even if they can't articulate it, why you have such a big turnout for Trump, because the rules have been changed, and that's not the way this country works. You should be valued by your merit and your effort. I'll never forget my daughter when we were living in Minnesota, and she had a friend, a sweet girl, a little underprivileged, grew up in a broken home, a single mom. And I could hear her come into our house and say to my daughter, "That's your closet." Because her and her sister shared one of those shared walk-in closets in between the two rooms. And it was big. And we had this discussion about, why doesn't everyone get equal things? And the concept of equality, which is kind of this whole deal with the Democratic Party, equality for all, even in the way that FEMA takes care of disasters. It's an equality-based deal. And everything is equality, which, in theory sounds great, but it shouldn't be that way. It's about equal opportunity. Everyone gets the same shot at working hard and making your mark on life. Look, I'm not the smartest guy in the room at all, but I outwork most people. I work my butt off to come here and not look like a fool when I'm on your show and on others, and to run a business that my family is proud of. And, I'm not Peter Schiff. He's a hell of an economist, but, I work as hard as he does, or harder. That I know. And I think that's what this country's all about. And I think that's what makes so many people angry, where those rules have changed. It's more about your lifestyle. It's more about your religion, your sex, your creed. None of those things, they're all relevant, but not material. I mean, they shouldn't be. It should be about, what did you do to get here? How did you get here? And how hard are you working? And what are your morals? And what are your principles? And are you on time? And you get along with people? And I don't know. I say that too much, but this to me is why I'm excited that we have a change, because another 4 years of that type of destructive capitalistic behavior, I don't know where we would be at the end of 4 years. So let's all be optimistic and hope for the best. But this does not change the monetary side of things. And that's why you need to protect yourself with things like gold and silver, because the dollar is still in deep water, but maybe the country's on the upswing, at least in terms of our moral fabric.
Andy, at this time of a dip in the prices of metals, and we don't know how long that will sustain, what do we have to offer people in terms of specials that they can use to offset their family's risk against that destruction of the dollar going forward?
Yeah, so we have the 2024 UK, United Kingdom, Great Britain, Lion and Eagle coin. I guess it's a limited edition. It's $99 over spot. Never seen this coin before, to be honest with you. That's probably why it's a limited edition, but it is brand new, and at 99 over spot, great deal. 1 ounce backdate silver Britannias, $2.99 over spot per ounce, and don't know what years those are, but they'll be in mint condition. They come in tubes of 25 and boxes of 500. Look, whether you're buying Britannias, Philharmonics, junk silver, Krugerrands, American Eagle, just add some metal to your portfolio. Continue to protect yourself. Don't get disillusioned that everything is going to be okay now with the dollar and with the economy. That's not the case. And in fact, if you take a look at the backdrop right now with the banks, the lack of credit in the system, the over-leverage, the undercapitalization, it's every bit as precarious today as it was yesterday. It's just that people right now are a little bit happy with the outcome. And one of the things I find so silly is the reactionary environment of the markets that rely less on long-term fundamentals and more on news of the day. And that's why I always look to China. They think in terms of decades. We think in terms of minutes. That can be bad. There might be times where it's beneficial, but in general, it's not good because the fundamentals haven't changed. We're just having a good day, but you still got some things that you need to clean up back home, and that's our debt problem. That's our fiscal problem. And if you have Elon come in and start cutting things, what does it look like when you have no more funding or grants to these organizations, or maybe lack of entitlements, or whatever it may be. It won't be an easy experience. We will have to go through a lot of pain. We've gone too far down the rabbit hole, and the bar tab has to be paid. So this doesn't change anything for metals, and these are good choices. I'll be flat out with you and say, if I had my druthers, I'd buy gold and silver eagles and pre-65 silver. I don't care that these are specialists. They're good deals. And if you want a big bang for the buck, yeah, buy them. They're amazing. I have Britannias. I don't have any of those, but I have gold and silver Britannias. I like them. But in my humble opinion, I think the American Eagle and Buffalo, the pre-33 gold, the Morgans, the silver dollars, and the junk silver, that to me is, if you own nothing else besides that, I think you're in a really good place. And I do think there will be an awakening by the mainstream that traditional assets really aren't as safe, and traditional places like bank accounts aren't that safe. Just like the First National Bank of Lindsay, Oklahoma, as we talked about, where $3.5 million is gone. And yet they bail out Oprah Winfrey and all the Silicon Valley tech startups in Silicon Valley Bank to the tune of hundreds of millions, if not more, in uninsured deposits, throwing a trial balloon out in flyover country in Podunk, Oklahoma, where half of those uninsured deposits are gone forever, should make people take a step back and realize that, maybe we should reevaluate. Now, a lot of the people watching this show already have, but it will take something else to make the elephant in the room turn around and say, whoa, it's about time that I look to something else. And when you see the most knowledgeable investors in the world buying it at the level they are, the central banks, that's all you should need to see. Nothing else matters. Everything else is misdirection and rhetoric. Their actions certainly tell you that gold and silver are very, very, very important to where we are going ultimately. So while this is a day to rejoice, don't get, I think, thrown off the bull for the wrong reason, because he'll do the best he can to buck you off at all times. And while this is a great day for our country, it doesn't change the fact that we have squandered the responsibility of being a good steward of the reserve currency. In fact, we've done everything but do that, and there's still ramifications to pay for that. That's why I own gold and silver, because it's wealth. Not to get wealthy, but that it is wealth, and I think that still has a long way to play out.
Andy, we're always grateful for your presence here on this weekly market update, and thank you everyone for sharing this as widely as you can. We have only half of our viewers are subscribers, so that means there's a 50-50 chance, if I'm talking to you and you're watching this, that you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel. You can just click the little subscribe button and the bell, then you'll get notified of each of our interviews. And if you don't want to miss a single interview with Andy or any of our other guests, make sure that you're on our free mailing list by going to libertyandfinance.com, all spelled out, all one word, libertyandfinance.com. Put in your email address, click submit. You'll get one confirming email, and then you'll get one email per day in your inbox with all of our interviews with Andy, including every weekly special, and all of our other interviews with all our other guests. You won't miss a thing, and it's all free. Andy, as always, thanks for joining us here on Liberty and Finance.
Always a pleasure, brother. I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday night live stream. Thanks for pivoting with me, and hope you have a good one. It's a good day to go out and celebrate. So you and everyone else have a great day. It's a good day to be an American, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
God bless our country. Thank you, Andy.
Yep, you bet.
Take care.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for November 4th through November 11th, 2024, while supplies last. This week we feature the 2024 1-ounce gold UK Lion and Eagle coin, a highly limited release, available at just $99 over spot. We also have backdated silver 1-ounce Britannia at just $2.99 over spot per ounce. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.